I'm Mariano Beristain, Managing Partner at Diana Morales Properties Knight Frank, and I'm really delighted to be joined today by Miguel Manzanares, lawyer and founder of Manzanares Abogados, based in Marbella since 1995. Thank you very much, Miguel, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And just to start very briefly, can you give us a brief overview of your background and your experience working with international clients buying in Marbella?
Like you rightly said, I was founding my law firm on 1995, so it's 31 years ago almost. And basically, I wanted to deliver legal practice in two fields, property law and tax law. Those two fields have been, since the very beginning, those specialization where we've been giving advice to a big number of clients, more than 35,000 clients, more than 35,000 families. We still retain more than 28,000 of them. Some of them, of course, sold their properties. Some of them inevitably passed away. So with around a team of 90, we can say we are the largest law firm in the field of property law, because there are other large, not many, but there's other larger in law firms, but they do every kind of field of the law, specifically about property law. In that sense, with the experience, with the number of years, with the number of people working, with the number of clients, we are the largest law firm on this kind of field in Spain.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And how has the market for non-European buyers evolved over the past years?
It's been evolving all the time. Of course, this is inevitable. The change in life is really something that it's the biggest certainty that we have in life is the change, right? So therefore, it was in the very beginning of my legal practice, it was very immature real estate market, where the real estate agencies had a shop with window cards and were expecting that someone, walking client, was knocking the door and looking to buy a property. Then there was by 99, 2000, big, mostly UK platforms were deciding, let's go to the UK and promote the sale of the properties there with exhibitions, road shows, and many other events that were taking place in the UK. Those days, British market was dominating the international clientele in Costa del Sol. And therefore, this was really a moment in which there was a huge explosion of many new clients. So that was from 2099 up until the year 2006 or so, that was starting to slow down a little bit. Right. Then the global recession from Lehman Brothers collapse. And then after that, the market was becoming a bit more diverse, a bit more sophisticated, a bit more educated, I would say, in which, fortunately, in this area of Spain, the clientele became very diverse. So every country of the world you can think of has the intention, has the goal of becoming owner of a second, third home, sometimes even main residency in this region.
Interesting as well. Let's go into the buying process. What other steps of a non-resident buyer needs to take towards being able to buy a property in Spain?
I always recommend that the first initial step, even before selecting the property, is make sure that you become owner of that property with the right formula, with the right scheme. So people are considering, do I have to become owner me as a private individual, or using my UK company, or using a new company that I have to set up in Spain? We have to analyze pros and cons. Mainly it's about taxes. Taxes that you face when you buy the property, that you face when you keep the property under your ownership, and when you sell or rent out, and even when you pass the property to your family by inheritance. So thinking, analyzing, and deciding the best way to become owner, this is the best initial step to take.
We try to help. Normally when we have a client, we always recommend, okay, prior to visiting the properties and trying to decide whether if you want to buy or not, It's not only good that you have the NIE number and the bank account, but also a lawyer who can explain absolutely everything, and then we don't have any surprise during the process. So we try to help and tell the clients actually to hire a lawyer even before they put an offer on a property. Not always they take note of what we say, but
Follow your advice, yeah.
we try. As a non-resident who is unfamiliar with the Spanish property law, how important is it to have a qualified, experienced lawyer by your side? And what risks does someone face if they try to navigate through the process without proper legal representation?
The system, sometimes the clients are not really very conscious of the risk that they are taking, because everybody try to assimilate this is in Spain it should be a very similar system that in my country is like. In many jurisdictions, in many countries, the notary plays a role very important in respect of safeguarding the main points of legal ownership, registration, conclusion, closing, completion, etc. This is not the case in Spain. So many clients have to understand that the notary is not a professional that is going to be looking after my interest, that the notary is an independent professional in front of who both parties with their own legal representation sign and conclude title deeds. So therefore, the lawyer is the only professional that is looking after their interest in respect of wording correctly their reservation, doing the searches, doing the due diligence, wording again and negotiating the right private purchase contract with the other party, and guiding through the process up until completion. The most important phase of everything is due diligence, is the legal searches. Legal searches that sometimes are legal and sometimes are a little bit of practical situations. And I mean with this, there is a point of the due diligence very important, which is the ownership. With the ownership, we get a certificate from the land registry that is called nota simple. This will give us a very important information: who is the owner, how is the property described and registered, and how is the situation about charges, liens, encumbrances, debts. It's got to be free of all of them, right? But there is another chapter, which is the town hall, the city hall. How legal is that property? This property has been respecting all the legal requirements of the law or not. So there was a building license, there has been a license of first habitation, the property is still now up to date with everything, or someone in the middle of the process from acquisition up until now has made any irregularity or illegality. So these kind of things, there is no notary that is going to go to the town hall that gathers those documents and really investigate in depth how the property is like. Then there is a situation about the community of owners. The community of owners is important because you're going to be a member of that community. You are about to say, yes, I want to respect in full all the regulations of that community. You need to know them. Yeah. And you need to know what's going on in that community. You need to read the last years of community meeting minutes to understand if there is something that is about to happen that you don't know. Touristic license, so rental in short term is permitted, it's not permitted, that was voted correctly, incorrectly. So the community of owners have become a very important chapter of a due diligence. Yeah. And a final chapter is what I said is a little bit more practical, is about utility bills. Make sure you have water, electricity, internet, and they are correct, and they are really correctly dimensioned for that kind of property and that kind of area or neighborhood. Is not permitting that you increase the power of your home. These kind of things are very, very important. So therefore, you can see all the chapters that I explained, that the notary is not going to do anything for you in that respect. It's got to be a lawyer, and if you do not have a lawyer, you can find any unwished surprise on any of these subjects.
Let's go into the cost and taxes. What are the tax implications at the point of purchase for non-residents, and do they differ from a purchase by a resident?
Not at all. When someone buys a property, there is no distinction in respect of the cost, whether you are Spanish, non-Spanish but resident, or a foreigner.
Right.
So the the cost of buying in Spain, we say that the summary is not very correct, but the resale property is normally associated with a 10% cost on top of that. 10%, I understand the 10% because it's a very easy way to calculate it. Every price, 10% of that is very easy to calculate. So therefore, people are following that with bearing in mind this is overestimated. It's more correct around 9%. And the breakdown of that 9% is mainly corresponding to 7% transfer tax, and the other 2% is corresponding to lawyer, notary, and land registry. With that kind of 9%, you should really have sufficient. So the 10% is good to work with when you are looking at properties, but it's around 10%. Yeah.
Good. And how does Spanish inheritance law affect non-resident owners? Can foreign nationality apply for inheritance law of their home country?
Well, yes, they have to respect the inheritance laws of the country they come from, but they have to really comply with the law, with the taxes applicable in Spain. In that sense, the region of Spain of Andalusia, where Marbella, Costa del Sol is, has now a very low tax regime in respect of inheritance. Because recently we have a law that says that if you are a spouse or civil partner, children, grandchildren, that group of the family, close family, can enjoy each one of them 1 million free of taxes. And then after the first million, you apply the corresponding sliding scale, and whatever tax bill in the end is 99% exempt and only 1% taxable. So therefore, you have to receive several millions. You know that the first one of them is a complete zero. And then after the first million, you apply the sliding scale, you go to the tax bill, 99% of it tax free and 1% taxable. So therefore, the system in Spain, in this region of Spain, I would say, is very favorable, and consequently, this is one of the good things that we are celebrating a very, very low tax regime in this field.
Golden visa. Does buying a property in Marbella still open the door to the Spanish residency?
Yes, of course. We have the two very consolidated systems of becoming residents in Spain. We used to be operating many years, and it's been operating simultaneously of the golden visa, and still now that we don't have a golden visa, they still operate. So which is the lucrative and non-lucrative residency in Spain. Lucrative, I plan to invest and develop a business in Spain, and the non-lucrative, I plan to enjoy Spain. So therefore, those two systems will give residency to non-European citizens. Europeans is just application, and that's it. And so therefore, these are the two easy ways. There are really other ways as well, like the nomad visa is for someone that is working for a company or working as a self-employed in other country. They come to Spain to continue with the same activity that they used to do in the UK, in the US, or in any other non-European country. So therefore, they can enjoy what is called nomad visa. It's not a visa, it's residency in Spain. And so this is really becoming a very popular formula, because especially after COVID years, we have seen like many people are used to work from home, and this is something that
more and more we see
more and more, and therefore they're coming to Spain to keep doing what they used to do. Some jobs, of course, is impossible, but some jobs is really very consultant or many other professions. They can do it remotely, and then they can travel eventually 1 or 2 times a month or whatever. And so they would say that this third way of nomad visa is becoming more and more popular.
And that is, I think, is one of the reasons why Marbella is growing so fast and so much, because what you said is like, I mean, people more and more come here to live permanently. They send kids to the international schools, and they are back and forth all the time, which I think is one of the reasons why we are growing so much and so fast again. Ongoing obligations as a non-resident owner. Okay, what are the annual tax obligations for a non-resident who owns a property in Spain?
We have to pay the imputed income tax. Many people are incorrectly naming this tax like the non-resident tax. It looks like the non-residents pay taxes and the residents pay no taxes. No,
Yeah,
it's not.
which is not like that.
It's not like that. This imputed income tax is because everyone that is owner of a property that you are using, you're not renting out, because if you're renting out, it's a real income. It's not imputed. It's real income. But if you are not really renting out that property, you are just keeping for yourself, there is an imputed income. The imputed income is 1.1% of the cadastral value. Cadastral value, I have to clarify, that is not the real value. The real market value is an institution. It's lower. So it's an institution called Cadastro that calculates for tax purposes the cadastral value, that fiscal value, lower than market value is. From that value, 1.1% is imputed income. And this imputed income, we all have it. Me, I'm Spanish, I'm resident in Spain. But every European non-resident, every non-European resident or non-resident, everybody has this imputed income, 1.1% of cadastral value. In my case, I would pay according to my status of a resident. So therefore, I will pay 19, 21, 23. Yeah. So if as a non-European will pay a non-European will pay 24. And European passport 19. So imputed income tax is not very high, because you see that it's only 1.1% of a cadastral value, and then after that 19% for most of European passports as a
We are finalizing the subject. So what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a non-European or a non-resident buyer if they are looking to buy a property in Marbella?
I would say dedicating time for the preparation. Before buying a property, and the preparation is I have to put together a good package of documentation, because this is going to be asked by the lawyer, the notary, the bank, the agency. So I have to really put together a very complete package of my documentation. And the second, I have to get informed about how I become owner of that property in the most effective way. He's got to explain, I have my money in my company, is under the perimeter of the company. If I have to take it out, I have to pay dividend tax or whatever. So he's got to explain his personal circumstances. And considering that, he will be able to get a very full report with a legal and tax analysis of this is our recommendation. And then you know that when you're traveling to Spain, you have a very complete package of information and documentation to provide when necessary. And then you know exactly how you are becoming owner of that property. These are two very important steps. The third step is bearing in mind that you already have a lawyer. So if you need at any point of conversations, the dialogue with the vendors, a special deal or whatever to draft, amend or implement something in the reservation, you have your lawyer just after the telephone call. So therefore, I would say this is preparation, analysis, and therefore when everything is in a legal point of view ready.
In the right position.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Miguel Manzanares, lawyer and founder of Manzanares Abogados. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Welcome. Bye-bye.